XRP has dropped around 11.5% over the past day. But honestly, that's nothing unusual. Some cryptos have taken a smaller hit, around 5%, while others have plunged as much as 16%. So seeing XRP dip between 10% and 12% is pretty standard behavior for the space. If you take a look at the front page of LiveCoin Watch, scrolling through the list shows that XRP's current movement is very much in line with the broader market. This isn't some oddball outlier. The crypto market tends to move as one, it's highly correlated, so what's happening to XRP is just part of the overall trend. There's no need for panic if you're holding XRP. Sure, it stings to see a red chart when you bought in at a higher price. It affects your portfolio value. But at the same time, it opens up the door for more accumulation. You can now grab more XRP for the same amount of money than you could when prices were higher. It's all about how you frame it. Personally, back when I was still accumulating, which I did for years, I never obsessed over the dollar value of my holdings. What mattered to me was how much XRP I actually owned. That's the lens I used, focusing on building up my stack, rather than sweating short-term price moves. And since XRP is my top pick, my biggest position, I naturally have a strong bias. Over the years, I've seen the market bounce back time and time again. Compared to where things were in 2017, we've already come a long way, and I fully believe the trend is far from over. The most exciting times for XRP investors are still ahead. From everything I've seen in the last 24 hours, all the analysts I follow are treating this drop as nothing more than a routine correction. There's no panic, no dramatic reactions. In fact, many believe we're approaching the peak of this cycle sooner rather than later. It's not looking like we'll have to wait until next year. That's a widespread view right now. And I'm all for it. I'm ready to welcome what could be life-changing returns from XRP. We'll get through this pullback, ride the wave up, and when the next bear market hits, I'll be ready to rinse and repeat. At the time I'm recording this, it's around 3 a.m. Central on Thursday, July 23, 2025. At the moment, XRP is sitting at $3.06, just barely above its 24-hour low of $3.05, which hit right before I started recording. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is only slightly down and has been pretty flat, just moving sideways over the past day. But here's the reality. Bitcoin dominance has been climbing ever since the market started pulling back a couple of days ago. Meanwhile, altcoin dominance has taken a hit. The result? A massive wave of liquidations across the altcoin market. A lot of holders have been completely wiped out. That's the brutal truth. Check this. Altcoin Desk recently ran a headline that really drives this point home. Ether. XRP traders take heavier losses than Bitcoin as $630 million in liquidations rock crypto markets. One of the key takeaways? On Tuesday, there was a sharp market drop that triggered close to $735 million in total liquidations, with long positions getting hit the hardest. So while it's natural to look at XRP and worry, keep in mind, this isn't just about XRP. What we're seeing is a market-wide move. It's systemic, not isolated. XRP is not being singled out here. And actually, just a few days back, I came across another headline I want to highlight, also from CoinDesk. Take a look at this one. XRP breaks 6-year triangle with short-term price target of $6. Now, this is coming from CoinDesk of all places, which, let's be honest, has never exactly been friendly toward XRP. I swear, it almost feels like having a deep-rooted bias against XRP is part of their job requirements. I mean, seriously, how else do you explain that level of negativity? From an entire team? But even they are starting to admit what we've known all along: XRP is gearing up for a major move upward. Sure, The entire market just took a hit. But like I've been saying, this dip isn't because of something specific to XRP. It's a broad market correction. These kinds of pullbacks are totally normal, especially near the end of bull runs. We've seen this kind of thing play out before in previous cycles. This kind of dip just comes with the territory. Check out this post from chart analyst Halal, who shared his thoughts with his 712,000 followers on X. He said he's not worried about today's altcoin drop. And honestly, he's right on the money. According to him, the pullback was reasonable when you consider how much the market had pumped recently. The key takeaway? Bitcoin stayed strong. And when that happens, altcoins usually bounce back and often with even more momentum than before. His advice? Stay patient and stay bullish. Couldn't agree more. That's exactly the right mindset when it comes to the crypto market. And history backs it up. Let's not forget, XRP was trading around $1.93 not too long ago. Within a month or so, it surged all the way to around $3.65. That's a massive rally. So naturally, after a huge run like that, a bit of a correction is to be expected. No big deal. I've been through far worse as an XRP holder. This doesn't faze me in the slightest. Now, don't get me wrong, this particular drop has been one of the most significant in terms of my personal net worth, just because XRP has gained so much value and I've been holding it for years. So yeah, technically it's a big hit, but even so, I'm not freaking out. There's just no reason to. This is all part of the journey. Let's take a closer look at what chart analyst Ali Martinez shared recently. He pointed out that Bitcoin is still holding above its key $117,400 support level. According to him, if buying pressure increases here, we could see Bitcoin push up toward $131,000. And mind you, this post was made at 10:57 p.m. so we're talking less than 3 hours ago as I'm recording this. Here's the important thing. When you zoom out to the higher time frames, nothing has changed. I know it can be emotionally jarring when prices drop suddenly. It hits people right in the feelings. Trust me, I get it. But letting that emotional reaction take over doesn't make logical sense. I actually broke this down in depth in my last video. The reality is, the market structure remains as solid today as it was yesterday, a week ago, or even last quarter. Nothing fundamental has broken. I follow loads of chart analysts, and not one of them has flipped bearish. Nobody's panicking or waving the red flag. You're not seeing, "Oh no, time to freak out," vibes from any of them. Absolutely not. Now, let me show you something from Matt Speed, another trusted chart analyst. He mentioned that Bitcoin dominance is pulling back to its weekly baseline, which is acting as resistance right now amid the ongoing altcoin pullback. This was expected after it bounced off the 60% level. Bitcoin dominance had surged to around 66%, then dipped back to about 60%. And right when that happened, altcoins started running again. The markets don't move in clean, straight lines, right? Dominance started climbing again, and as you'd expect, alts took a hit. This ties back to a post I referenced in my previous video from chart analyst Dom. He warned that we were at a key decision point. Either altcoins were going to get smacked and dominance would rise, or dominance would break down completely. One of those two things had to happen, and now we know which one it was. Still, that doesn't alter the overall trajectory. I fully expect Bitcoin dominance to decline again soon, even as Bitcoin itself gears up for what could be its final parabolic leg upward. After that, the real fun starts. That's when altcoins including XRP go into full-on discovery mode. Face-melting price action. That's where we're headed. Now I've shared this before, but it's worth repeating, especially for those feeling a bit shaken. Here's a post from the blockchain backer. He shared this at 8:18 p.m. last night. So about 5 hours ago, he said, XRP had a red day, just like the rest of the altcoin market. Looks like a simple backtest. We're likely ranging here until Bitcoin confirms its next parabolic push. Hate it or love it, the entire market moves as one big trade. And he's 100% right. That's the reality. XRP's current dip isn't a cause for alarm. Nothing scary is happening here. At the end of the day, this whole journey comes down to a binary outcome. Either we're right and XRP eventually rockets into true price discovery, or it fizzles out and goes to zero. And if you zoom out far enough, everything between now and then won't matter. I've made my bet. I've stuck with it for nearly a decade. And I'm more confident than ever that it's going to pay off. Now here's something else from Ali Martinez that's worth highlighting. Whales don't typically get caught off guard, and what they've been doing speaks volumes. According to Ali, in just the last 10 days, whales scooped up more than 280 million XRP, and that was before prices started falling. Even as the market was dipping, accumulation continued. These are massive holders' wallets with between 10 million and 100 million XRP each. Sure, some of those are likely exchange wallets, but the trend is undeniable. The direction is what matters. These whales aren't dumping, they're buying, because they clearly believe the best is yet to come. They're positioning themselves now for what they expect to be much higher prices ahead. It honestly couldn't be more clear. Here's a post from chart analyst Bark, who shared this with his 225,000 followers on X. He said, XRP is simply refueling for the biggest pump in history. His message? Don't sit this one out. Now, this is a guy who already called XRP's breakout earlier in the cycle with precision. And even last night, after the price started dropping, he doubled down, saying it's just a pit stop before liftoff. And you know what? He's spot on. If past cycles are anything to go by, we've already seen the first major wave. That began back in November. After that, there was a period of consolidation, some sideways movement in December and early January. Then boom, XRP hit a fresh all-time high around $3.40 on January 16th. That was just phase one. Then came a months-long cooldown. We moved sideways for nearly half a year. But that's not unusual. It's textbook crypto cycle behavior. The same thing happened in the last cycle ... and the one before that. And now, we've just entered the second leg up. And here's the exciting part. Historically, the second surge is always the biggest. By far. I'm talking significantly bigger than the first leg. In terms of US dollars, the gains in the second wave completely eclipse the first one. It's not even close. What's coming next is going to make this last rally look like a warm-up. To give you a bit more perspective, chart analyst XR Punky recently shared a post where he asked, XRP crash? What crash? Just look at the chart. It's obvious. XRP started surging back in November, climbed higher and higher, then went sideways just like I explained earlier, and then exploded upward again. And now, we're seeing a tiny dip. That's it. Put it in context. Look at the size of this. Minor pullback. And then look at the massive upside that's unfolded over the past year. All that green? That happened in less than 12 months. So if this small move downward is seriously stressing you out, I say this with love. Maybe take a step back and ask yourself if you're overreacting. No offense, but you might be acting a little soft about it. I say that playfully, but seriously. Gain some perspective. We've already launched, and that rocket hasn't even reached escape velocity yet. There are no signals, none, that suggest this bull run is over. There's nothing on the chart screaming cycle top. This isn't some unusual situation. It's playing out just like previous cycles. A crash? Come on. I've lived through way scarier XRP price action than this. Way more brutal moves. This is nothing in comparison. This really is nothing to stress about. Take this post from chart analyst Dr. Catton, for example. I won't read the entire thing here to save time, but the gist of it is, he was flagging the possibility of a dip down to around $2.90. That warning came last night at 7:03 p.m. Central. And look, at this point, that kind of move looks more and more likely as time goes on. Let's see where XRP is trading now. Has it dropped any further? Even if we do see that $2.90 level hit, it's still no reason to panic. It's well within the range of normal, short-term volatility, especially in a market as explosive as crypto. Alright, let me hit refresh real quick. Okay, looks like XRP just ticked up a bit. We're at $3.10 now. Still, it wouldn't be shocking if it dipped a bit lower. Something like $2.90 isn't out of the question. But here's the thing, markets always find a bottom. And in this case, XRP still has a ton of underlying strength. Eventually, the forced liquidations stop. The panic sellers dry up. There's only so much fear-driven selling that can happen before momentum shifts. And when that shift comes, you know what happens. We reverse course and start pushing back up. That's how it always plays out. Every time. Here's something from chart analyst Galaxy, who shared a post with his 112,000 followers featuring the XRP-USD chart. He said he's very curious to see just how far this XRP bull run could go. And when you look at what he's pointing out on the chart, it's super clear. He's referencing the full-blown bull phase we saw back in 2017 into early 2018. It followed the same pattern I've been describing. A big breakout move, a long sideways phase, about 6 months, and then an even bigger surge to new highs. And in terms of dollar value, that second leg was by far the more impressive one. Fast forward to now, and we're seeing history start to rhyme. We had that breakout in November, then a lengthy sideways stretch, and now we're just beginning the next leg up. Galaxy isn't stressing about how low can XRP go. He's asking the real question, how high can this thing fly? And if you look at the chart he shared, the upper edge of his green target zone is up around $36. Now, I'm not saying that's a guarantee, and to be clear, I don't make price predictions. I've never claimed to know the exact number where XRP will top out. But what I do believe is that we're heading significantly higher than we are now. Thinking that XRP's run is already over? That this little move was it? Honestly, that's just nonsense. It's not even remotely realistic. The best is still ahead. Check out this post from chart analyst CW. He shared it just under 3.5 hours ago, around 10:08 p.m. Central Time. According to him, most of the highly leveraged long positions in XRP, which had gotten overheated, recently have now been flushed out, gone. So what does that mean? Maybe the worst of this dip is behind us. Maybe the fear is cooling off. The market will eventually find a bottom, as it always does, and when XRP is trading much higher down, the road this moment will just look like a typical shakeout in hindsight. Because that's all it is. These kinds of corrections happen all the time in crypto. And yeah, I get it. This one's sharp enough to make people panic. But that's exactly why I'm here, like I always am when this happens. Every time the market wobbles, I fire up the camera and say, "All right, kids, gather around the fire. It's Uncle. Let me tell you a story." Because I've seen this movie before. A lot. Since I started this channel in late 2018, I've made countless videos saying exactly this. It's going to be okay. And it always matters, because people need that reminder. Repetition helps. Plus, there are always new folks entering the space who haven't experienced this kind of volatility yet. So for those who are new or just shaken, hear me loud and clear. This is not a big deal. It's not a crisis. It's not the end of crypto. That's absurd. The truth is, cryptocurrencies bring real functional utility to the table. They enable business models that literally wouldn't exist without blockchain tech. That's real value, fundamental value, completely separate from day-to-day price action. So no, people aren't going to just walk away from this technology. Of course not. It's useful. What we're seeing now, it's just volatility, nothing more. Just yesterday at 10:08 a.m., chart analyst Javon Marks shared an update, but by then, XRP had already started dipping, falling to around $3.28. Naturally, some folks were already getting nervous. But despite the drop, Javon was still focused on the bigger picture. According to him, XRP's upward move is still very much underway. He pointed out that the next major price target sits at $4.80, and there's even potential for it to break past $7. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked at all if we see that happen, maybe even sooner rather than later. From where we are right now, that kind of move isn't far-fetched. It's basically just a 2x jump, and XRP has done way more in the past. All right, guys, check this out. Here's another update, this time from chart analyst XRP. He pointed out that XRP ran into some resistance around the $3.50 mark, which, yeah, it definitely did for a bit. Looking at his chart, XRP is hovering just under the first major resistance trend line. He marked it with a yellow arrow. And this was all before the recent dip. According to him, once we push through that level, the next big resistance zone is between $7 and $9, shown with a blue arrow dot. So the big question, is XRP heading there soon? That's been the buzz lately. And just because we've had a pullback doesn't mean the outlook has changed. To be clear on the higher time frames, the structure is still intact. None of the analysts I've been following are suggesting that the big picture has shifted, and that makes sense. This kind of volatility is par for the course in crypto. So yeah, XRP's target of $7 to $9 is still valid. The same analysts who were eyeing $4, $5, even $8 just a few days ago, they're not backing down now, and they shouldn't. Here's a post from chart analyst Greg Crypto, where he talks about what he calls the chasm. Now, if XRP doesn't at least touch or break through this level, then yeah, something might be off, but he doesn't think that's the case. The chasm is just the name he's given to this specific trend line on his chart, and his price targets, still the same. Go ask him yourself. He hasn't changed a thing. Just because the price pulled back a bit doesn't mean that Greg Crypto suddenly ditched his double-digit prediction. That's not happening. No one's just flipping their outlook because of this dip. In fact, if XRP simply hits that trend line he's showing, we're looking at around $11. And if it pushes past that, we could be eyeing something closer to $37. Here's another update from chart analyst Greg Crypto, posted yesterday morning. He was diving into XRP's market dominance, saying that even if XRP climbs to 6.5% dominance in this next leg up, as his chart suggests, it still wouldn't mean XRP has fully solidified its place in the crypto world. In his view, real dominance starts once we cross that 10% threshold. And honestly, I agree. I wouldn't be surprised at all if XRP pushes well past that mark. Some analysts are predicting XRP could top out with a 15% market share or even higher. And if that happens, we're talking about a potential 3x price increase from where we are now, which puts XRP close to $10. But here's the kicker. If the overall altcoin market cap doubles too, that same percentage would reflect a much higher price, more like $18 to $20. Why? Because 10% of a larger pie equals a bigger slice in dollars. Simple math. And remember, XRP hit over 30% market dominance 2 bull cycles ago. Now, I'm not saying we'll see that again, especially with so many new altcoins in the space. But that doesn't even matter. What does matter is what XRP trades for in dollars or your fiat currency of choice. And there's no indication that anything fundamental is broken here. Let me say it again. Nothing's broken, folks. Now, check out this post from chart analyst Zoom from the same morning, just as XRP was tanking. Price had dropped to about $3.27 around 9:03 a.m. Central, but he wasn't fazed. He said it's just a clean retest of a fair value gap, or FVG. For those unfamiliar, an FVG is basically a price imbalance where buyers or sellers temporarily outnumber the other, and price often revisits those areas before continuing its trend. So again, not worried. Just another analyst seeing this move as part of the plan. Later in the afternoon, after prices dropped even more across the board, Zoom posted a follow-up saying this is a clear buying opportunity before the next leg up. And yeah, tons of people are feeling scared right now, and that's a normal reaction. Fear is human. But is it rational? Not really, not if you've done your homework and understand how these cycles work. This type of volatility is normal, even in bull markets, especially in the final stretch, which is where the biggest, wildest price moves usually happen. We're in the home stretch now, the last 10% of the bull run. And that's where the explosive action tends to play out. XRP isn't done, not even close. So just because we're seeing some dips doesn't mean those double-digit price targets are off the table. In my opinion, that idea is just ridiculous. But of course, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't buy or sell anything just based on what I say.